Yeah, hi, good morning. In today's session, we'll talk about IAM roles. Okay, so how can we create users? What are the different policies? Okay, what is managed policy? What is AWS customized policy? Okay, so we'll work on that particular service. Apart from that, we'll try to cover some more concepts in EC2. I mean, that is snapshot. How can we create our own customized AMI? Okay, this is also very important, and we have missed that, right? Okay, so let me cover that as well. Okay, and apart from that, we'll talk about EBS volumes as well. So we'll try to cover three services for today. Okay, so let me share my screen. Yeah, can you see my screen, guys? Okay, so we'll try to cover IAM, and then easy to snapshot. In certain use cases, how can we use the snapshot? Okay, and why are we using this snapshot? So there are some use cases where I need to require to create a snapshot to my existing EC2. So we'll talk about that as well. Okay, and then we'll talk about EBS volumes. Okay, so most probably this will be a 40 minute session. Okay, so first is IAM. So IAM means identity access management. Okay, so if suppose, let me go to my AWS console. Okay, so this is my AWS console, and all these days what we were trying to do, we were trying to log in with the help of my root user. Okay, so this was my root user, means this was the email ID which I have used to create my AWS account, right? So this particular user will be considered as a root user. So in general, even in Linux or in any other terminologies, the moment we say root means he has a complete access. He can create, delete, modify, or he can do everything on this account, whatever he wants to do, because he has a complete privileges or access. Okay, so let me click on next. Let me try to log in this. Okay, so this is our login dashboard, how it looks. Okay, so now in my root user, I can do everything. Okay, so for example, assume that for Techie Horizon we are around 20 members of team who are working for Techie Horizon right now. Okay, so if suppose I want to provide AWS access to them, then if I'll share the email ID and password, then what will happen? Everyone will get the root access, means they can delete, they can do whatever they want. So I don't want to provide the complete access to them. I want to create individual user access to each of the resource who is working for this account. Okay, so in that case, we have one service called IAM in AWS, which will help us to create users, attach some permissions to that users. Okay, this is how it will work in real time as well. I mean, this is how it will look. Okay, so now if I go to these nodes, okay, so IAM identity, the moment we are seeing identity. Okay, so what do you mean by identity? Identity can be any user, any group, or any role specific to that account. Okay, so first let me try to create one user. Okay, so let me go to my IAM service. User creation, I will be creating from my root account because I have that access. Okay, so let me go to IAM. Okay, let me search for users here. Okay, click on add user. For example, if I have one user called test. Okay, so this is my username. Okay, and then click on next. Okay, as of now, add user to a specific group, copy permissions from the existing user, attach policies directly. So as of now, I don't want to use any of these options. Okay, or else what I will do is, let me add one existing policy. If I click here, okay, here we can see some policies which are already created by AWS. If you are seeing the type as AWS managed, means these are the default policies what AWS has provided to us for every account. Okay. Similar to this, if you are seeing customer managed, means this is what I have created. Okay, I have created this policy on my own. Okay, so what is policy and how to create this policy, we'll talk about this at later point of time. So let us focus on attaching on some basic access. So let me use S3. So I want to attach S3 read only access. Okay, here if you'll see this, I'm trying to attach read only access, means to the test user there will be only one access, that is read access for S3, means he can only view the content of our S3 bucket. I mean, what are the different buckets which are available and what are the objects which are available in that bucket, but he cannot update or delete these objects. Okay, so let me use this policy for now and click on next. Okay, and then if I scroll down, let me click on create user. User has been created, but no password has been attached. Okay, let me do one thing, guys. Let me just delete this. Something went wrong. We have missed some options, so let me delete this. Let me try to create user again. Test will be the user. Okay. Okay, and here I am trying to provide the AWS management console. The previous access what I have given was the programmatic access, means which can be only executed via CLI, means for example, sorry. Okay, AWS CLI commands I can execute for that particular user. So here also we have two different type of access. One is console access, or I can say as GUI access. Okay, second is CLI access. This we call as programmatic access. Okay, GUI means graphical user interface, means basically this console. The user is trying to do the functionalities from this graphical user interface. Okay, and we have one more access, that is programmatic access, means he will not be having the access to console, but he will only be able to access via CLI commands. We have AWS CLI commands as well. Okay, clear? So now let me provide GUI access for this user. Okay, so let me select this, and then here it is asking for two different options, that is auto generated password as well as custom password. So if you want any random password to be generated by AWS only, then we can use this, or if you want to provide any access, then we can use this. Okay, so as of now, let me use this. Okay, so this is my password what I have used. Okay, and then users must create a new password at next sign-in. Means generally whenever we get any access, whether it is of GitHub or Jenkins or any GUI graphical user interfaces, so the one who is creating these passwords for us, right? I mean, for example, I am AWS admin, so I will be creating this account for user. In our case, mostly we will be using as a user level only. We are not AWS admin. Okay, so we will not be using all this stuff, but as part of interview this is also very important. Okay, so if in case suppose that you got this responsibility, that you need to create the users as well, and you need to do the administration for the AWS account. So in this case, always make sure to users must create a password at next, and what will happen the moment he will try to log in, it will ask to create a new password. Okay, so in my case I will not be using this for now, so I will use a custom password, and the password is DevOps at the rate 123. So what I will be using, and then let me click on next. Okay, let me click on attach policies for now, and let me search for S3 policy. I can use any policy, so for now I'm using S3 read only access. Okay, so this user can only able to access S3, and then click on next. Okay, let me click on create user. Okay, so once this user has been created, here we can see some different URL. Okay, so let me copy this, or else what I can do is, let me open incognito AWS console. This is the regular URL, right? So log back in and then click as IAM user. Okay, then it is asking for the account ID. So what is my account ID? So here we can see this number is the account ID, or else we can find from here. Okay, this will be the account ID. Okay, so let me use this account ID, then click on next, and then username. What is the username? Username is test and password is DevOps @123. So this is what I have created. Okay, so once done, here I can see the dashboard and the user ID. See, test@account ID. So basically, this is how a IAM user will looks like. Okay, so now let me go to S3 service because I have provided the access for S3 only, right? So let me click on S3. Create bucket. Let me try to create some bucket. Test 123.0.509. Okay, and let me use this North Virginia region. Okay, let me keep all the default settings because I just want to create one basic bucket. So click on create bucket. Here, see, if you see, S3 create bucket permissions are required. Basically, this user doesn't have access to create the bucket. So what happened, with the help of these IAM users and providing different access to different users, so we can be able to control our AWS account, who is using account. For example, he is developer, so what access we need to provide to the developer? He need to access EC2, S3, VPC, then we can provide that policies to him. If suppose we have one operations guy, so he want to access, he want to get the complete access. In that case, what I can do, I can provide administration access to that guy. Okay, so that's how we can segregate the privileges to different users in a team or in a project. Okay, so now if you see this user was unable to create any bucket. Okay, and even there are no buckets currently in my account, so we will not be able to see that. But let me show you something. Okay, this is my root account. Let me duplicate this page. From my root account, let me go to S3 because root has the complete access, right? So let me go to S3, create bucket, test. Okay, so this bucket name should be unique across the globe, as we have discussed in our previous session, right? So, and also one more thing here, we can see as global means there are some services which are global specific. There are some services which are regional specific. Okay, S3, IAM, okay, and we have CloudFront. These are the services which are global specific. Okay, these are not regional specific. But again, this bucket is regional specific only. But service is a global, bucket is a regional specific. Okay, so let me try to create one bucket for now. Create bucket. Okay, see, test 0509123455. So I have created one bucket from my root user. So if I'll try to open this account, my test account, okay, let me go to buckets. Here we can see this user is able to read the bucket, means he can able to check what are the different buckets available, but he will not be able to delete this or update into this bucket because there are no privileges. Okay, clear? This is how we need to create the users and attach policy. Guys, understood?
Hello.
Yeah.
Bro, we are facing latency in videos.
Check internet, which internet you have been connected.
Airtel.
Airtel. I am also connected to Airtel. Guys from Geo, Ashfaq.
I have mention of latency. We're also getting latency.
Geo users are also facing the same issue.
Yes, sir.
Yes, bro.
Not getting so.
Guys, if you are connected to Wi-Fi with mobiles, try to disconnect that mobiles, okay? Because I can see a lot of users who are connected via mobiles as well. So that's the reason we are facing some issues, okay? So we have two different routers. Ahmad room, please use Airtel Wi-Fi, okay? And Ashfaq room, please use Jio Wi-Fi. Guys, try to rejoin. If you are facing issue, please try to rejoin. Okay? Shall I continue?
Okay.
Yeah. So this is how we need to create one user. Okay. Now we have one more concept called group. So why groups are required? For example, okay, for example, we have one user called we have one user called Saber, one user called Kavin, and then one more user called Satish. Okay, so these three users are working for same operations team. In this case, instead of creating users and attaching policies to these users, what I can do? I will create one user. I will create one group called ops group. Okay, I will create one group called ops, and these three users will be assigned to this particular group only. Okay, so these three users will be assigned to this particular group, and what all the different permissions are required, I will attach to this particular group. For example, S3 full access slash EC2 access. Okay, so what will happen? So whatever the policies which has been attached to this group will be applicable to all these three users, because these three users are associated with the same group. Even while working, you will see different groups created, because it will be very difficult to attach roles to each and every user again and again. There is a chance that, for example, if I have attached Saber to S3 access as well as EC2, then in future there is a chance that I might miss any access to Praveen, because we will not be able to remember what access we have provided to the operations team. Okay, so better create group, provide access to that group, and then add the users to different groups. Okay, so let us see this. So where is my IAM? So these operations I will be executing from root user, because root has the access. I will not be able to execute from test user because there is no access for test user. Okay, so let me go to IAM and then go to user groups. Okay, let me create one group here, ops, and then let me add this user. Okay, select this user, and then what type of policies you want to attach. Okay, for example, I want to attach S3 full access. Let me search, let me select, and even let me scroll down this. If I scroll down, so okay, so this is how one policy will looks like. Okay, so this is JSON format, and this is how your policy will looks like. Okay, so let me select this and let me click on create group. Now what happened? I have created one group ops, and I have attached S3 full policy, and I have attached one user to this group. Okay, so let me try to test this. So let me click on, let me refresh this page. Okay, let me click on create bucket. Okay, ops 1 2 3 4 5 0 5. This should be unique. That's the reason I'm taking some random numbers. Okay, and then click on create bucket. What will happen now? This user will be able to create the bucket successfully, because we have attached the policies to the group. So whatever the policies attached to that group are applicable to this user. Okay, earlier this user was unable to do anything. Now he is able to do this. Why? Because of the policy what we have attached to the group. Clear? Guys, understood? Or
Yes, clear.
okay, now let me try to delete this. Okay, let me try to delete one. This will get deleted because this user has the access for the delete as well. Okay, but whereas if suppose if I'll go to EC2, right? So if I'm trying to launch an EC2, so let us see what will happen, because this user don't have any EC2 access, even to that group there is no access. Okay, so this is what we can see, API errors. This will see because of the permissions. Okay, now in both the cases, whether I am trying to create one user or group, we are trying to attach policy. Okay, so what is policy? Okay, if you have observed, right, so when I have created one user, I have attached one policy called S3. When I have created one group, I have attached a policy called S3. So basically, what is policy? Policy is something which will help us to define the permissions of the IAM identity. Identity can be user, group, or roles. Okay, so what is a policy? Policy is a, I mean, policy defines the permissions. What are the different permissions this user needs to be provided? That comes under policy. I mean, the policies. Okay. Again, as part of interview, this is also very important, guys. Okay. So types of policies. We have different type of policies available in AWS. Okay, so the first one is identity based policy. Identity based policy means that can be either user, group, or role based policies. Okay, again, in identity based policies we have two different policies. One is inline policy and one is managed policy. What do you mean by inline policy? Okay, basically inline policy is something which will be created to a specific user only. A policy which has been created to a specific user, and this policy will get deleted if you have deleted the user as well. Okay, so if suppose you want to attach one inline policy, okay, so let me check this. Okay, let me go to users. This is my user. Okay, and I want to provide access. Okay, so 1 second. Yeah, so here we have add permissions. Here we can see create inline policy. Okay, now what service we want to provide to this particular user? For example, EC2. So where is EC2? EC2, let me select this. I want to attach EC2, I mean attach EC2 access. Okay, now what type of EC2 access, whether it is read, write, list, or complete access? So let me select complete access. Okay, he can create, he can delete, he can do whatever he wants with the EC2. Okay, and then if I scroll down, okay, request conditions, this is not required for us. Okay, so let me ignore this and click on review policy. Resources, all resources. Okay, so whatever resources are available for EC2, I want all that access. And review policy, okay, and provide name, what type of policy we have created. For example, EC2 full access test user. Okay, so click on create policy. Okay, and attach this policy to this user. So here if you see this is inline policy, means this is a temporary, I mean this policy is only dedicated to this user only. This kind of policies we call as inline policies. Okay, so if I refresh this page, now we can see there will be no API error. See, for this instances and all, it is working because we have provided the access for this user. Okay, so here on the left side we can see different policies. If I'll click here, okay, let me search for this EC2, whatever I have created just now, right? So let me go to the users test, and I can see what are the different access. So if I'll scroll this down, then we can see the JSON format what we have created. Okay, try to remember this syntax. Okay, so in every policy we can find the version, we can find the statements, and then SID, and then effect, whether allow or deny. Basically in effects we can have two things, either it is allow or deny. Okay, and then action to which particular resource, and then resource all. Okay, so we are selecting this. This is getting generated automatically in the background. Okay, if you want to generate this from scratch, then you can use generate policy as well. This will help us to create the policy as per our requirement. Okay, so what kind of policy you want to generate, please select the options, and then this will help us to create one policy for us. For example, let me select this and click on generate policy. No trials. Let me not use this cloud trial activity. I don't want this. Okay, so add policies, add permissions. Okay, here we have two different options as well. For example, if you want to copy the existing user policies, okay, then select this option. If you want to add a user to a group while creating, then we can select this option. Okay, now what we have did, we have created one inline policy, and I have attached to this particular user called test. If I scroll this, here we have this option. Okay, so let me copy this and go to policies, and if I search for this, okay, here you are unable to find this policy. Why? As I said, that is only restricted to that particular user only. The moment that user is deleted, that policy will also get deleted. Okay, such kind of policies we call as inline policies. Okay, and then next we have customer managed policy or AWS.
Sir,
Yeah,
can we use that inline policy to another user?
no, that is restricted to only one user.
Okay.
If you want to use same policy as Ganesh asked, right? So that's a very relevant question. Okay, so if suppose you want to use the same policy to different users, in that case, create customer managed policies. It can be attached to n number of users. Okay, so in managed policies, we have two. One is AWS managed policy. As I said, this is created by AWS. So we call them as AWS managed policy. And one more policy, we have customer managed policies. Okay. So this policy, for example, create policy. Okay. Now select service or EC2. I will use load balancer because for now this user is unable to see this load balancer, right? So let me attach load balancers ELB. Okay, all ELB actions, I want him to get the complete access. Specific, if suppose even you want to add a specific options to the policy, okay, whether what he can do, I mean to a limited load balancers, you don't want to have the access to complete load balancers, we can use this. Okay, so as of now we don't have any load balancers created, so I will use all. So this will help us to provide the complete load balancer access. If there are 10 load balancers, then this user will get access to 10 load balancers. Okay, and then click on next. Policy name, load balancer -test, create policy. Okay, here if you see load balancer test, if I scroll down, a JSON has been created. Okay, and then here we can see customer managed, means this is something what I have created as per my requirement. Even basically this is also not required to be created because we have a lot of default permissions available by AWS only. We can use that permissions, but still only to explain you guys, I'm trying to create new permissions. Okay, so first try to search for load balancer, for example ELB. Okay, let me search for this. ELB is not available. Let me do one thing. Load balancer is also not available. We will find these permissions from AWS manage itself. So try to check for the permissions and attach. Okay. So now, as Ganesh asked, right? So this policy can be attached to multiple users because this is not something related to inline policy. Okay. So let me go to my user test. Inline policies I will be creating from user itself, add permissions and create inline. Okay. Whereas normal policy, I mean managed policy, I will be creating from these policies. Okay. So let me add permissions, okay, attach policies, and then load balance at test, click on next, add permissions. Okay, this user has got one more access. Okay, so if I'll refresh this, hopefully this error should get rectified now. Still, we are able to see some issues. Maybe some more policies are being missing. Okay, so we will not try to troubleshoot this for now. We'll ignore this part. But this is how we can create the managed policies. Okay. AWS custom policies I will not be explaining because already we have these policies, right? So already we have also used this. Okay, so we'll ignore this for now. Similar to this, we have different policies available. So I was talking about identity based policies. Okay, then we have resource based policies. Then we have IAM permission boundaries. Okay, access control list, organizational service control policies, session policies. Okay, so I will share these notes. Please try to explore all these. Try to just remember which policy is used for which particular purpose. Okay, as part of interview, customer managed policy, inline policy, and what is policy will be for surely they will be asking. Okay. Okay, similar to this, now we have one more thing, that is role in IAM. Okay, what do you mean by role? Okay, if I'll click here, roles, here we can find some trusted entities. Basically, this is the default roles which has been created. So what is a role in IAM? Okay, so roles are something which will have the specific permissions. I mean, even policy, what was there? Policy was defined with specific permissions, and that was attached to users or groups. But whereas roles will have also have the specific permissions, but these roles will not be attached to any user or any person. Okay, this is not attached to any person. Then in what case this roles will be used? For example, okay, we have one requirement that our AWS EC2 should talk to S3. Okay, for example, we have deployed one application in EC2, either it is Tomcat application or any application, and that application is trying to communicate to S3 bucket. Okay, this application is trying to connect to S3 bucket. So if suppose manually, if I am trying to do, what I will do, I will configure AWS configure and I will try to connect to S3. But when working, okay, so I mean, when the server is deployed, then there is no manual intervention. So one resource should be communicating with another resource within AWS. In that cases, we require roles. Okay. So for example, our use case is we have one EC2, okay, and this EC2 should store the data in S3. Okay, so this EC2 should store the data in S3. So we have one application deployed. I have deployed over here. Okay, now if suppose manually, if I'm trying to talk about manual, so what I will do, I will try to log into my EC2. I will try to configure AWS configure, I mean the credentials, access key, and the secret key, and then we'll try to push the objects to S3 bucket manually if I am trying to do this. Okay, so what I will do, I will try to push these objects manually with the help of AWS CLI commands. Okay, whereas when this is deployed in the live environment and one service should try to communicate with another service, then this is not possible without any roles. So what we need to do, we need to create the role and we need to attach that role to the EC2 instance. Then this EC2 instance will be able to communicate to S3. Similar case what we have seen in VPC flow logs. If you want to write anything on CloudWatch dashboards or S3, right, we need to attach the roles to this particular VPC. Then only this will, then only our VPC flow logs will be able to write anything into the CloudWatch. Okay. So if you want to communicate with any other service within the same account or different account, in this case, we need AWS roles. Okay. Roles are used to provide a specific permissions, but that are not specific to any user. Means roles cannot be attached to any user. They can be attached to any resource. What type of resource? It can be EC2, it can be S3, it can be VPC, it can be load balancer, it can be any service in AWS. Okay. Now, let me show you this as well. Okay. So, let me delete this bucket. I don't want anything in my account. So, let me delete this first. Okay. So, let me go to EC2. Okay, Oregon region, we have already one instance. What is the key? Let me check because I'm not sure whether I have that key or not. Test Oregon. Okay, I have that key. Okay, let me start this instance. Okay, it is still in the initializing state only. Let me connect. Let me try to connect. Okay. Even one more thing. Okay, so let me show you this. If I'll go to the test user, right? Okay, in Oregon region, we have our EC2. So let me open that Oregon. If I'll go to instances, okay, we have got the session manager. See, session manager access is not available. We need to provide this access as well. Okay, so load balancer access. I think we have got this access. There is no API error. Okay, now we have connected to our EC2. Okay, sudo su. I've switched to the root user. Okay, so what I will do, I will try to execute one of the AWS S3 command because this user has the AWS access, S3 access, right? So AWS S3 LS. What should happen basically? This command should help us to execute or list all the S3 buckets available in our AWS account. Okay, so the moment I have executed this, what we are able to see, unable to locate credentials. Okay, first we need to configure this account. Okay, so how are we configuring AWS? Configure AWS configure. Now I need to pass the access key and the secret key. From where we will be getting this one? Okay, if I'll go to my security credentials. Okay, here I need to create this. Okay, so this is my access key which is been inactive as of now. I'm not using this. Okay, so I need to create this access key and secret key, right? So what will happen is, if suppose I have got that access key and secret key and I will configure here, then I can be able to execute this command. Okay, but if some other user has logged into the same account, then he will also get my access. He will get my access key and secret key. Okay, this is also not safe. Apart from this, when when we have deployed our application, this will not ask for the configurations. Okay, so this is not a secure way. Still, this is not a secure way. So what I will do now, okay, I will not configure any credentials. Okay, so what I will do is I will create one role for S3. Okay, and then I will attach that role to my EC2. So let us see this. Just go to roles, create role. Okay, we have different type of entities. Okay, so AWS service and then AWS account, web identity. So for now, I want to communicate from one service to another service, right? So I will be using AWS service. Okay, and then from where you want to communicate EC2. So let me select this EC2 to S3. Okay, so let me check for S3. Yes, I am able to see one S3. Okay, so EC2 to S3 and then click on next. I don't want any policies, permissions. Okay, S3 full access I want to provide because I want to communicate, right? So S3 full access, click on next. Even here, if you are saying we are attaching a policy to the role again. Okay, so policies are something which will be attached to role or user or groups. Okay, and roles are attached to specific resources. These are not used for specific users. Okay, so next, role name S3 EC2-S3 access. Okay, I am providing this name. Allow EC2 instances to call AWS services on your behalf. This is the description. So based upon this only, we can understand what's happening. Okay, so then click on create role. Okay, one role has been created. Okay, so let me open this. Let me copy this name. Now, if I'll go to my EC2, I want to attach this role to my existing EC2. Okay, so what I can do, just go to your EC2 service again. Click on instances, select that instance, go to security. Here we can find something called IAM. Okay, so as of now, there is no role attached when I have created my EC2. So what I will do, I will just click on actions, security, modify IAM role, and will select the role. Okay, into S3 access. This is what I have created. Now click on this, update IAM role. Okay, now if I select this security, here I can find one role has been attached to my EC2. Okay, now if I try to do AWS S3 LS, then see what will happen. See, this command has been executed successfully. Okay, means we have provided the access to our EC2 to communicate with S3. As of now, there are no S3 buckets. That's the reason we are unable to list anything. But let me try to create one more S3 bucket so that I can show you this. Create bucket. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 0, 5, 9. Okay, click on create bucket. Okay, one bucket has been created. So let us switch to our root user. Okay, so let me hit this command again. Here we can see the bucket name which has been created. Okay, so this is how we can create roles and we can attach roles. Okay, while creating role, we have different options. As I said, AWS service means if you want to attach to any specific services. Okay, AWS account, if I click this, okay, basically this is if suppose we have multiple accounts or we are trying to connect from any third-party accounts. In this case, we can use this. Okay, we have web identity similar to when we try to connect to our Naukri account or any other account, right? So it will ask to sign in with Gmail and all that stuff. So if we have accounts in Google, login with Amazon, this will be helpful. Okay, SAML, this is basically a third-party tool set. I mean, if we have Azure directories, okay, in order to log into our AWS account or any other account, in this case, we can use I mean, if we are using SAML, then we can use this option. So either for we don't have any SAMLs. Okay, similar to this, we have custom trust policies, means someone from another accounts can try to access or perform any actions in our account. So in that case, we can attach this role as well. So this is all about AWS roles. Okay, so we have different roles already created. So try to explore these roles and try to check what are the different type of roles. If you are not able to write any policy, do not worry about that. Okay, just try to use the policy generators and create any policies. This is more for AWS administrator, guys. But as part of interviews, we need to aware on IAM rules and policies as well. Okay. So I think I have covered pretty much which will be asked in interviews. If you have any questions, then let me know, or else we'll move to EC2.
Excuse me. The JSON format, whichever was given. So if you want to create any role or policy, so we need to search and create particularly for that, or we can find on Google or something like that.
You can see there are a lot of permissions which are already provided. So there is no chance that you need to create one new policy from scratch. Okay, if suppose there is you got one requirement where you need to create your own policy, in that case you can use the policy generators. Okay, for example, JSON. Okay, so this is how I'm trying to create one policy, right? So let me select for one cloud font. Okay, all access, all. Okay, and then click on JSON. So this is how you will a policy will get generated, and you can customize as per your changes. अगर उतना इम्पोर्टेंट नहीं है ना बोले तो तुम्हारी है खराबी. हाँ बोलो जवेरिया, 1 second. Okay,
That's it.
okay,
Yeah.
guys, 1 second. Yeah, so now we'll talk about S3, sorry, EC2. Okay, so let me close this session. Okay, close my camera. Okay, no problem. Okay, so what we have did, we have one test instance. Okay, so we'll talk about how can we create our own AMIs. Okay, so for example, if I'm trying to launch instance, browse AMIs. Okay, here I can see 0. Okay, so for example, when I am working for any production environment, or this is a sample EC2. Okay, so let me try to connect to this. Connect. Okay, so this EC2 will be used for my production environment, and what I want to do is I want to install some prerequisites. Okay, so for example, yum install, or else let me check the git version, git --- version. Okay, here I can see command not found. So let me install git yum install -y git. I need to use sudo because I'm not using root user. Okay, so what I have did now, I have installed git in my EC2. Similar to this, for example, assume that we have 5 to 6 different dependencies as well, which will help our application to run on this EC2. Okay, so what I have did, I have installed each and every tool, and then I want to save this EC2. In this case, what I will do is, okay, instances, select this instance state, sorry, actions, where is, sorry, image. Okay, and click on create image. Okay, so what will happen now, an image or an AMI will get created based upon our EC2 whatever we have installed. Means, for example, in one EC2 which is a fresh new Linux image, and I have installed some specific tool sets, right? Then I can take a snapshot of that particular image And the moment I will launch this EC2, what will happen? By default, Git will be available in that image. Okay. So what do you mean by snapshots and all? Snapshot is nothing but a certain point of capturing. For example, if you are playing one game, okay, if there are 10 levels or 1000 levels, okay, so if suppose you have completed first level and you have closed your mobile phone, and again after some time you want to play the game again, okay, the moment you open this, then you will be redirected to the second level, not from beginning. Why? Because it has taken a certain backup or at that particular point of time. Means the moment you have reached first level, a backup has been created. Okay, so similar to this, I have installed my tool sets and I will creating a backup for now. Okay, so this will be test AMI and image description git installed. I will be using this. Okay, and then click on create image. Okay, if you see this currently creating AMI, this is my AMI ID, and from this particular instance it is been creating. Okay, so now if I'll go to my AMIs here, one we can see one AMI has been created. Okay, now if you want to use this AMI, right, so we can select this or click on launch instance from AMI, or go to instances, go to launch instance, browse AMIs. Okay, my AMIs. Here we can see the AMI what I have created. Okay, select. Okay, then I will rename this as Git. Okay, T2 micro only. Key name I will use test Oregon. The general settings, whatever are required VPC and all, we need to use the settings. Okay, launch instance is pending. Basically, this is still not yet created. It is still pending. Okay, so okay, let me check if the instance AMI has been completed or not, and then try to create. Okay, status is still pending, so it will take some time to back up my machine, and then I can launch this EC2 by using my AMI. This system will reboot now. This has been rebooted. Basically, why? Because I have created one snapshot or backup. Okay.
హలో బ్రో
Yeah.
మన ఓన్ క్రియేట్ చేసినప్పుడు ఇది చార్జెస్ పడతా లేదంటే ఫ్రీ అను
AMIs ki charges same ఉండవు.
ఓకే
The moment you start using them, then the charges will be applicable. Even for VPCs, there will be no charges. The moment you started using that VPC, I mean, you deployed any resources and transferring the data or doing some stuff, right? Then the billing will get started. There are some services for that there will be no billing. Okay, but make sure you have deleted that. Okay. What's the action? This is still pending only. Okay, this will take some time to create. Okay, once created, what I will do, I will launch my AMI again. I mean, regular EC2, and then the moment I will do git -f version, right? So we can find the git version, because after installing it, I have taken the backup, right? So that's how we can customize our own AMIs, whatever is required. For example, if you want to install Terraform, Ansible, Docker, install everything into one AMI and take a backup and use that AMI for your production environments. Because every time, no need to install these tools again and again, right? So you know this will be used for 1 year. So do not you install each and every time. So install for one time, take a backup, and use the same AMI for different applications or in your production environments or different environments. Okay. Okay, this is available. Now let me try to launch. Click on instances, launch instance. This will be in, I will name it as git test Oregon networking, select existing security group, default. Okay, and then launch instance. I'm not focused on much of these settings because I already have explained this, right? So as of now, I'm just focused on the current concept. Okay, so once this is done, Okay. It will take some time to initialize this. Okay, initializing. And if I'll try to connect to my newly created AMI by using git image and then connect, failed to connect to this instance. What happened? System checks 2 by 2, still initializing. Okay, so let us wait. Try to refresh this page. Instance network settings are configured correctly for EC2 instance. For more information, you need to check this document. What I have did. Okay, still waiting. So let us still wait. This checks to be 2 by 2. Okay. Let me try to refresh now. We'll see. Status checks still initializing. So we are seeing some issues with this AMI. The network packets. Okay, so see, I mean, this is also a very rare chance where we can see the system checks are getting failed. Okay, now we are able to see that there is some issues when trying to create or launch our instance. Okay, so now if you see this status checks, okay, so this is what we can see in the status checks, and if you see this, okay, and if you click on the info, right, so here we can find what are the different ways to resolve this. Recently I've shared one document, right, so what can be done in order to resolve this. So most commonly we will be doing the rebooting, because this is something which is pending at the AWS side, means any kind of hardware failures or any kind of networking issues as well. Okay, so we'll try to reboot the instance first. If it is not running, then it is asking to terminate the instance and launch one new replacement. Okay, or else get instance console output to diagnose whether the instance is unreachable. This is one way. Catcher is restart of the which provides visibility of the instance status and allows for a quicker resolution. Basically, I can also reach out to AWS support as well. Okay, so let us try to refresh this. Okay, let me try to reboot this now. There is some issue guys with this instance, so let me try to reboot as mentioned. Okay, so instance state and then reboot. Most probably reboot will help us to resolve this issue. Now we can see the system checks has 2 by 2 passed. Okay, now let me try to connect. Let me refresh. Okay, there was some problem in the backend. This is a very rare case where we will be encountering issue. It was our luck where we have seen this. Okay, so whenever if you got these questions in interview, right, so we have seen this use case. Try to explain that. Okay, so let me go to EC2 again. There is issue here, not yet resolved. If I'll check this, open authorized elastic API running, this is been passed. Okay, both are passed. Okay, so let me try to close this and open a new image, because I have rebooted, right? Maybe IP address has been changed, so let me connect. Correct. Network settings, what happened? Let me check this document. Configure network access. Okay, let me do one thing. Okay, so instead of using EC2 instance connect, let me use SSH client and try to check. Okay, where is my keygen? My keygen is in my downloads. Show more options, git bash here, and then paste. We'll see what's happening. Because from EC2 connect, I'm unable to understand what's exactly happening to my instance. Okay, we'll try to check from here, but still it is taking time. Let me just check the security group, whether security group has been opened or not. Default all ports are also open. Status check is also okay. As per the document, configure network access. Amazon install institutions connect to an instance. But in order to execute this, we need to first connect. So I'm unable to connect. Connection timeout. There is no internet access. Test instance. This is in my test VPC. Oh my god. Okay. Okay. So this Git I have installed in my default VPC. So maybe there is no internet access. That's the reason it is unable to connect. So let me check this VPC ID. This is my VPC. Let me check the route tables. Internet gateway. Okay, so this internet gateway is attached to our test VPC, and this one is attached to my default VPC. This is okay. Routing table. This was the route table, right? So if I'll open this routings, this is also okay. Subnode associations. Let me add the subnets. Okay, I have added all my subnets. Routing policy is also okay. So let me try to connect now. There is some issue with my VPC. So in meantime, what I will do not waste time. So let me go to my EC2 again. Okay, let me launch instance. Git installed, and let me use my customize AMI. My AMIs, this is my AMI. Okay, test Oregon is the key, and I am changing the network settings. I will be using test VPC. Okay, public subnet, and then enable the public IP existing security group, because I know that this VPC is working. So launch instance. So let me wait these checks to get passed. Okay. Okay, git installed. Let me try to connect and check if I'm able to connect or not. Okay, click on if a user, click on connect. Okay, this time I was able to connect. There was some issue with my VPC, guys. Okay, so because recently we have created VPCs, right? So I'm not sure what changes I have made. So now I have created this EC2 in my default, I mean in my customized VPC, what I have created. Okay, so now if I'll do git --, version, then we can see Git is already installed. Because this is what we have taken the snapshot from our AMI. Okay, so this is how we can take the backups for our EC2s, or we can create our own customized AMIs. Okay, so this is also done. Let me know if you have questions on this. Okay, no. Okay, so I have one more thing for you guys. Okay, so for example, if I'm using SSH client, right? So let me copy this. Let me try to connect from my git bash. Okay, so instead of root, I will be using EC2 because root user will not be able to log in, right? So EC2 user, yes. Now my case is from this laptop, I don't want to use -i parameter and pass the PEM key. For example, okay, for example, assume that you have been onboarded to a project, okay, where we have already these EC2 instances running. Okay, now you have asked for the access to this EC2 instance. So in that case, what I will do, I will not share the PEM key with you, because the moment I'll share the PEM key with you, then you will get the complete access for this account. I mean for this EC2. Okay, so what I will do, I will basically ask you to send the SSH keygen. Okay, or else what I will do, I will create one username in this EC2 and then I will hand over the EC2 to you. Okay, but again, still what will happen if suppose there are 100 users, then it will be a rework for 100 times. Okay, so general use case, what they will do is I will ask you to share one SSH keygen. So how can we create SSH keygens? If you remember, we have already created SSH keygens. Okay, if I'll do SSH keygen, just I will not create any new key because this key is already attached to my GitHub account as well and other accounts as well. So I just wanted to know the path. So what I will do, I will just copy this sheet, sorry, okay, cat, and then go to this path and dot public. Okay, so what you guys need to do is just generate one keygen and share the keygen to the user, I mean to the one who is asking. Okay, so I will copy this. So you have shared this key. So what I will do, I will copy this keygen. Okay, I will go to cd.ssh, and then here we have one file called authorized underscore keys. Okay, sudo vi authorized underscore keys. I will open this file. Okay, and then I will write the keygen. I will paste the keygen. Okay, so once this is saved, let me close. Okay, let me exit, and now it's time to test. Okay, so I will try to connect without SSH keygen. See, without any key, I have been able to connect because my laptop is a trusted source for this EC2. Okay, so whenever you onboard to any project, right? So in that case, if anyone is, I mean, if you want access, if he is asking to share SSH key, then share SSH key. If suppose you are in my place and you want to provide access to some user, you can ask him to share the SSH keygen and copy that SSH keygen where in cd.ssh and then authorized underscore keys. Okay, this file. And this is my keygen. If you see the 0075 laptop, basically this is my laptop user ID. If I click here, this is my laptop user ID basically. Okay, so this is how we can provide the access. Now assume that, for example, assume that you have lost the PEM key. Okay, so this use case is okay. I mean, how to provide access. For example, assume that, let me exit. Okay, assume that this PEM key is being deleted. Okay, for example, let me delete this PEM key, RM from RF test Oregon. Okay, so this PEM key is deleted. Now, if I'm trying to log in, let's just check what will happen. Okay, no such file directory because there is no PEM key, but still I was able to log in. Why? Because of that authorized underscore keys. Okay, so basically, if suppose this PEM key is lost, then you can log into the EC2 if your SSH keygen is already added. That's one use case where you can log in. If there no SSH keygen is added, then what you need to do? How to recover this PEM key? There is no way to recover this PEM key. But as of now, what I have heard is we have got some different roles which can be connected to retrieve this PEM key. Okay, even I'm not sure. I need to test that first. Okay, so but if suppose you have lost the PEM key, so what you can do? If suppose you have lost the PEM key, what you will do? Will you delete this instance? There is a lot of data, or else this is a production environment image. What you will do? Just select this image, go to actions, go to imaging, click on create image, create one new AMI. Okay, while trying to launch one new AMI with the existing one, the way we have did with git install, right? I mean this image, try to change the keygen. So what will happen? You will get the complete backup of your existing EC2. Okay, a new keygen needs to be generated, and with the help of that new key, you will connect to that newly provisioned AMI. That old AMI, we can't do anything. Okay, but you can take the backup of that EMI, and then you can create a new key and then connect to this EMI. Okay, so that's one way how we can connect, and this is very important as part of interviews. Clear?
That's clear.
Okay, so now, for example, assume that we have one more use case. Okay, so you got the request that you want to change. I mean, T2 micro, this instance is not supporting us, and you want to upgrade this system. I mean, the instance type needs to be upgraded. In this case, what you can do, just select this AMI, click on actions, instance settings. Here we can see where is change instance type. Okay, this is not popping up because this is running. So first we need to shut down this machine, top instance. Okay, again, this we can do in two ways. I mean, whatever AMI we have, right? So we have taken the snapshot. So let me show you that. Launch AMI. So let me use this customize AMI. What I have taken the snapshot, my AMIs. Select this. Okay, then change the instance type. Earlier it was T2 micro when I have taken the snapshot. Now you can change this to any instance type what you want. Okay, or else what I can do, first shut down the machine, select this instance, actions, instance settings, change instance type. So from T2 micro to what image you want to change, what type you want to change, you can select this. For example, T2 micro, I want to change this to some T2 medium, T2, okay, T2 medium. Okay, let me select this, click on apply. So what will happen? The changes will be applied. Okay, if you see this, this is the T2.medium instance. So, okay, so this is how we can add more power to our existing EC2. Okay, that's clear.
Clear.
These questions are very important, guys. So this is very important as part of interview. Any interview, these all are some basic functionalities what they are expecting from us. Okay, so try to practice this, implement, and write down notes. Okay, now we have one more requirement. For example, okay, so I think we have covered pretty much on EC2. Okay, snapshots, and also we'll talk about EBS volume. So basically, what is EBS? Elastic block storage. Okay, what do you mean by elastic block storage? I mean, why it is required? Where will you store the data? In our laptops, we have hard disk drives or SSDs, right? So similar to that, elastic block storages are also hard disk for our EC2 instance. Means the moment when we are trying to launch one EC2, let me show you this again. Let me open this. Okay, here if I scroll down, here we are able to see some 8 GB. Means what's happening? What is happening? So we are providing 8 GB of hard disk drive to our EC2 instance. Means we have 8 GB of space where we can store any files or any data to our EC2. Okay, so okay, for example, this is one EC2. Okay, so for 1 second, let me stop this WhatsApp. Okay, guys, 1 second, please. There's no phone here. बाहर जाके बात करो, कॉल में है ना करो. Okay, sorry. So for example, this is EC2. Okay, while launching EC2, for sure we need to attach one EBS volume. Without attaching EBS volume, we will not be able to launch EC2. Okay, these volumes generally what we were using 8 GB of size. Okay, means HDD hard disk for our EC2. Okay, so for one EC2 we can connect or we can attach at least one EBS volume. Okay, if you want, you can create one more EBS volume. I mean, the way we are extending our EBS, I mean our laptops, right? Again, for example, 20 GB. Okay, the way we are extending our hard disk drives, right, in our laptops, basically, if there is no much memory, then what are we doing? We are extending our volumes. So similar to that, we can do extend our existing volume or attached one more volume to our EC2 instance. Means one EC2 instance will have at least one EBS volume. If you want to attach more volumes, then it is also possible. The way we are attaching, I mean, recently Satish has attached 256 GB SSD to his laptop. Already 1 GB, 1000 GB or 500 GB HDD was available. He has extended his volume. Okay, so similar concept we have in EBS as well. We can attach multiple EBS volume to one EC2. Okay, this is possible. For example, assume that, let me delete this. Okay, for example, assume that we have one more EC2 instance. Okay, so can I use the same volume to this EC2 instance as well, which is been already used by some other EC2 instance? This is not possible. Okay, we cannot use, okay, we cannot use one volume to multiple EC2 instances. We can use multiple volumes to one EC2 instances. Okay, clear? One EC2 we cannot use, multiple EC2 instances we cannot use single volume. We can use multiple volumes to one EC2 instances. Okay, so that's clear.
Yes, sir.
Can,
Yes,
for one instance, running instance, can we add volumes, or we need to stop and start again?
basically earlier there was a process that we need to stop, we need to add, attach, but nowadays we can directly increase the volume. Okay, earlier what we need to do is, if suppose from 8 GB you want to make it as 20 GB. Okay, for example, as Javier said, right, so 20 GB you want to increase. Okay, so what we need to do, we need to take a snapshot of the EBS volume, similar to what we have did to our EC2. Okay, we need to take a snapshot and then we need to launch a new volume with that snapshot, and that volume needs to be attached to the EC2. But nowadays, for example, okay, 8 GB, right? Okay, let me open this EBS. Oh shit. Okay, let me, where is our volumes? Okay, so this is our volume. Okay, here if you see, I mean, these all are the volumes which are been created when we have created our EC2. Okay, As of now, 3 EC2s are running. That's the reason we have 3 volumes. The moment I am terminating, we are also terminating our volumes as well. I mean, that's the default setting which has been, we are been configuring from these many days. Okay. So if suppose you want to increase the size from 8 GB to 20 GB. Okay. So attach, modify volume. Okay. For example, 8 GB, you want to attach to 20 GB, then go to 20 GB and click on modify. This is how we can increase nowadays. But earlier, okay, for example, assume that, let me cancel this and let me show you again. 8 GB, actions, modify. From 8 GB, I want to decrease this for example, 6 GB. So this is not possible. Here, if you see, the size of a volume can only be increased but not decrease. Okay, there is no chance that you cannot decrease the volume. You should only increase the volume if you want to modify this. Okay, got it, Julia?
Yes, yes.
Okay, now apart from this, earlier what we used to do, we used to select this, click actions, create snapshot. Means taking the backup of the volume, because volume is the place where the complete, I mean, I have installed Git just now, right? So where that has been stored? In volume itself. That's the kind of hard disk to our EC2, right? So whatever we are executing over there, that's been getting stored in the volume itself. Okay. Now I can take the snapshot of this volume, and this volume can be used to the newly creating EC2. Means, for example, if you have lost the EC2, what you will do? You can either take the snapshot of the EC2, basically that will take the snapshot of your volume only, or you can take the snapshot of the volume which is attached to your EC2, take the snapshot and try to launch one new AMI by using the existing volume. Okay, so let me try to test volume. Let me try to take one snapshot. Okay, here we can see attached instances, which instance is being attached to this. Okay, so what happened, I have taken one snapshot. Okay, if you scroll down here, we can find one snapshot. Okay, see, we have test volume which is been created and created by image. You can see this has been created when I have created the git image. Okay, end of the day, a snapshot will get created in the background, and by using this snapshot, for example, this is already created, right? So let me use this actions, create volume from snapshot. Okay, I can create one new volume. I can use this volume to attach to my EC2 by launching EC2. Okay, for example, I'm trying to launch EC2, right? So here I can add advanced, and I can select which volume needs to be added. Okay, so that's the way how we can attach the existing volumes to our EC2. Okay, and also one more thing, while launching instances, let me show you this as well. Okay, new volume, or else let me go to advanced. Okay, here we can see volume type. So these are the different type of volumes which are available, and the highest speed volume is IOPS SSD version 2. So how will you calculate which volume is of high speed or which volume is of low speed? For example, GP3 is selected. Okay, general purpose 3 is been selected. You can see the values: input and output speed 3000 and throughput is 125. For example, if I'll go to IOPS, this is 4000. Okay, similar to our HDDs and SSDs and magnetic fields. Okay, what is this IOPS? That depends upon the speed. How much speed? For example, there is 1 GB of data in your pen drive and you want to copy the data in your laptop. Okay, so sometimes it will take, in some laptops it will take 20 minutes, in some laptops it will take 5 minutes. Why? Because of your hard disk capacity. Okay, the more the input and output speed is more, then the more faster your computer will be. Okay, guys, clear?
Yes.
Okay, I think we have covered a lot of basic concepts in today's session. Okay, so we'll wind up with this. If you have any questions, then let me know, or else let me stop this. Okay, so Guys, any questions or let me stop recording? Okay, let me stop this recording.